All right, this is a day two recap of the Game Has Changed live online event. I'm Jerry Swafford. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering. So I want to talk a little bit about the day two recap of this live event. I do want to say right off the bat, though, that I did not watch this in real time. I actually had lunch with a couple of my sisters today and just wasn't in a position to do it. Frankly, I'm glad I didn't because I just went back and watched the replay on YouTube and put it on double speed. So instead of it being an hour, 3 hours and 45 minutes or something like that, it ended up being less than 2 hours. So we had it on double speed today and got through it very quickly. But I got all of the main points down for you. And so this recap should go pretty quickly. So I know that the marketing has Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. Obviously, people see Tony Robbins and go, "Oh, okay, I'm in." And so it's interesting today. There were people in the comments that were saying, "Where is Tony?" And it was getting close to the end of the time. So it usually goes from noon Central Time to around 3 to 3:15, maybe 3:30 Central Time. And as it was getting closer and closer to 3 o'clock, and Dean was still in the middle of a conversation with Stephen Bartlett, people were essentially saying, "Hey, where's Tony?" Well, Tony said yesterday, "I'll see you in a day." What he meant was, "I'll see you day after tomorrow." And so, again, there may have been a drop off because he wasn't there today. I will say, I mentioned cursing and foul language and how that is a thing that might be something you might want to think about if you're going to come to this event or watch this event online. Today, I don't remember any words at all. Now, I was listening at double speed, so that might have something to do with it, but I didn't see any. Dean really didn't use any language that I saw today, so that was good. So most of it was Dean today. He was really involved in just about everything. There wasn't a handoff to Tony for Tony to just speak. It was Dean, and then it was Dean talking to a couple of other guests that we'll mention in a minute. So he started by talking about this next piece of the puzzle. And so persuading others, one of the things he said early on was that the art of caring more than other people is one of the most important secrets to success. And so he said that he had friends that would ask him, "How are you so good at selling? How are you so good at persuasion?" And he said, "I just care. I care deeply about this." The next thing he began to talk about is how to find people that already want to purchase your product. So one of the biggest things about this is that, and Myron Golden says something like this, that the key is not to try to get people to buy your product. It's actually what you want to do is find people who actually are already looking for the solution that you have, so that when you find those people or those people find you, they already want what you have to offer. And so one of the things he said is that there are three places where we can generally come in contact with people who are looking for our products. The first is a warm network. Those are the first sales, people that you already have some contact with, people that you already know. You want to leverage your warm network. So, for example, I'm working on a book. The book should be coming out in early July to maybe mid-July, potentially, if there are some things that make it take longer. The first people that the people that know I'm working on a book already know about this. And so those would be the first people that you would look at and say, "Hey, I've got this book coming out." I already have people saying, "Hey, I'm looking forward to your book coming out." And so when the book comes out, those would be the first people I would be looking to talk to about the book, and seeing if that's something that they would want to purchase. So the warm network are your first sales. The second set of people that will be able to come in contact with you and your product or service is social, or the people that you come in contact with on social media. Those are the next people. And so he talked about social media a little bit and how you should engage with followers. And he had this framework where he talked about 3 I's. The first is intrigue, the second is to interact, and the third is to invite. And so the idea here is that you want to post content that is intriguing to people, content that gets people thinking, content that maybe is a little bit different than what you would normally see. There's so much information out here. You really want to post content that is intriguing to people. Once content is intriguing, they will begin to interact with it, and it'll give you an opportunity to interact with them. And once you've done that, then there is an opportunity for you to invite. This kind of goes to the Gary Vaynerchuk idea of jab, 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 right hook from a marketing perspective, that the jabbing would be intriguing and interacting with people. And then you're periodically providing an offer, making an irresistible offer that people want to be involved with. So then after that, he said that the third way to find people that already want your product or service is advertisements. And he said some interesting things here. This is where consistent sales can come. First sales, once you've exhausted your warm network, there really aren't any more people to come to there. And with social media, that goes to a certain place, and potentially you could have a large group of people there, but there comes a point at which that you would begin to tap out there. But then with ads, you can consistently be putting yourself in front of different groups of people and creating consistent sales from that. And so he made a point to say that a person should be themselves in their ads, not try to be like Tony Robbins, not try to be like Dean Graziosi or anyone else. You should be yourself. If you're more introverted like me, you should have that shine through in the things that you're doing in ads. So then he began to talk about selling. Selling is a bad word to a lot of people. People look at selling or sales as being sleazy, as being slimy. And one of the things he said is that most people do quite a bit of selling. Some of the best salespeople aren't quote unquote salespeople. And he said his wife is like this, that his wife convinced him to drive many miles away to an Italian restaurant. And he began to explain to her that she had to be a great saleswoman to be able to convince him to do that, because she was describing the sauce and she was describing the different things in that Italian meal that they would be able to have. And he was excited and eager about going there. And so he made 3 points about persuasion without the traditional sense of high pressure selling. And that is the first point was to turn selling into service by falling in love with the client, falling in love with the product, and falling in love with the outcome. The idea here is that if we focus on the person who is needing the help and really wanting what's best for them, then creating a product that can really help them and really being convinced that that product is good, and then finally really wanting to see this great outcome for the client. If you have those 3 things, then you're going to sell anyway because you want what's best. This is true with something like evangelism, for instance. If we actually love people and we love the gospel, you might call that a product, and then we love the salvation and the sanctification that is the outcome, then you can understand why for us evangelism, for those who are Christians, evangelism should be a natural outgrowth of that. And so we're not selling, we're just simply telling people about this good news. So when we are not evangelizing as we should, probably there is some disconnect in one of these 3 areas, or maybe 2 or 3 of them, where we don't really love other people potentially, or we don't really love the gospel message, or we don't really care about the salvation or sanctification that comes as a result of someone being saved. That's a spiritual side to this idea of selling, but it obviously extends to so many other things as well. It extends to a product or service that you may have, the customer that you may have, and the outcome that that product or service would get for that customer. So the second point he made was that he wanted to talk about the art of messaging, that a big part of being good at sales is messaging properly. And there are 3 subpoints within that. The first one is that we should be entering conversations that are already in a person's mind. It's very easy for you to just talk about the thing you want to talk about rather than talking about the thing that the customer wants to talk about, talk about the thing that the client already has in mind. If you enter that conversation that they already have in their mind, your messaging can be better. Second, people will buy from you when they feel understood. It's not about you trying to give them some understanding. It is you asking questions to come to a better understanding of what they are saying and thinking or feeling. And then third, you want to solve that person's problems and fuel their goals. And so if you will do those 3 things, then your messaging will be in a much better place. The third major point Dean had was about offers. And he said that an irresistible offer is meeting people where they are, delivering them a product that gets them the outcome and results that they desire. That's his definition of an irresistible offer. And he said an offer should have really three components. You should have a map that helps a person get from where they currently are to where they would like to be. The second part is that you give them a guide, and that's probably you as someone who's coaching or someone who's guiding them from where they are to where they would like to be. And then finally, you provide them with tools to get them from where they are to where they want to be. If you can provide all three of those things, then you can really help to persuade someone that you can help them get to their desired destination. Now, it is at this point, as he's beginning to tell them what goes into an irresistible offer, that he basically made an irresistible offer. He made an offer that was meant to be irresistible. And that is the mastermind business system. And so this was interesting. He spent quite a bit of time here really selling us on this mastermind business system. And so he began to talk about the way he was going to provide a map for someone who is an entrepreneur, business owner, or aspiring entrepreneur to get from being someone who is aspiring or maybe not where they want to be in their business to getting to the point where they are, where they would like to be in their business. And so it's very interesting. I watch a lot of trainings like this, a lot of live events or live online events and things, trainings of this nature. And often when you come to these kinds of events, there is something that someone is going to sell. They offer it for free, but they also want to give you this opportunity to get this thing they believe can help you. And there are a couple of different types of people or a couple of different types of responses that come from people when the sales pitch comes. And so I made sure I screenshotted this because I thought it was funny. This was comic relief for me, at least. There was someone that said, Sage 44 says, all of these quote unquote trainings are sales pitches. And so it was there. If you look further down there, there's someone called Krister Klassen that then said, enough with the sales talk, get on with the content and motivational. Now, this is interesting to me because, look, I want to see that sales pitch. I want to see what it is that they have to offer. They truly believe, or at least they say they do, that what they have to offer is something that will help some of us or help all of us to be able to be better entrepreneurs or business owners. And so if they have that, there is a responsibility that they have to give you that, what they believe would help you. But you're going to have a segment of people every time that simply gets angry and says, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. I just wanted the free stuff. And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they're here for the free stuff. And so you see people, someone, WHP Wellbeing right here, just puts a bunch of dollar signs. Because at this point, he hasn't said what the price is. He's begun to say the different things that he's offering. So he's talked about the map, the guide, and at this moment, he began to talk about the tools. It's interesting, if you look down at the comment below, there was someone that says, I love these complaints. This let you know not everyone is here to learn. And so the idea here is that there is a second group of people. There's the one group of people that, this is a sales pitch. Oh, here we go again. And then there's another group of people that says, hey, we want to see what this is. If this can help me, I want to know about it. So he began to get into the proposed value of this system that he was offering. He said, well, the map is worth nearly $2,000. The right guide is worth $1,600. The right tools are worth over $4,000 for a total of over $7,700. Well, why do they do that? This is a frame, or this is a way to get you to compare this proposed value to what they're going to be pitching, what the actual price is going to be. So interestingly, here this person's named Kenta Naomi says, hey, all of you leaving, this isn't just a sales pitch, this is an example. And I thought this was a good point. If they're trying to tell us how to make a sale, how to sell to other people, they should probably give us an example. But there are people that are saying, I don't want an example, you just give me the content. And this literally is content that they're showing you how to do this. How do you sell something and how do you let people know what the value is? Because one of the things that I'm mentioning Myron Golden a lot. I went to an event of his a few weeks back, so there were a lot of Myron Goldenisms that got stuck in my head from that. One of the things he said is that if the value is very large, let's say the value is this big, but the cost or price is this big, you're always going to buy, right? And so if something is worth $2 million, but the cost is $100, you may not have $100, but you'll go borrow $100 to buy this thing that's worth $2 million. And of course, that's a concept from scripture as well. But it's just interesting to see the response. And then the other interesting thing was that people began to guess. So when they tell you that it's worth $7,734, people began to put guesses in the comments as to what they were going to pitch it as, what the price was going to be. So someone says only $1,500 here. I saw some people saying $497, some people saying $97. They were trying to figure out what is the price going to be. And so eventually he said the price was $997 or 3 installments of $380. And so you have Derek Bautista here saying, wow, so expensive. Do you think I'm made of money? Now, this is worldwide. I think they said maybe 800,000 people have registered for this event. Doesn't mean that 800,000 people are watching at one time. I know I wasn't watching. I came in later and watched the replay. And so I at first screenshotted this, and then I realized that Casper Peterson had a comment here, a big marketing bunch of, and I had to mark out what that said and bleep it out because I don't want to put this on my channel. And people say, oh, you didn't bleep out the curse word. So I tried to make sure I do that. And then he says, guys, we can do better. Adios. So this is one of those people that he sees the sales pitch and he's out. Now, the interesting thing is, what's going to happen if, and he's probably not going to, but what would happen if he had a sales pitch, if he had something to offer people and he has this energy about this, or he has this mindset about this, how can he expect other people to buy from him? So that was it. After that, he brought on Renee Marino, who was an actress, and she eventually made it to Broadway after much difficulty. And she was able to become an actress. And so if you look her up online, you see that she's an actress, but now she's also a communication coach. And so she started this business of coaching and teaching people communication. And at first, she got a lot of opposition. She had worked so hard to get to Broadway, and she was going from singing and dancing to now teaching. And so family members didn't really understand what was going on with her. But she started with a class of about 17 people and worked her way up to a class of or maybe as many as 1,700 people. And then obviously it's much bigger than that now. And so one of the points that she wanted to make, one of the things she wanted to say to people who are just starting out is that you should start in your own backyard. Start there. This is going back to what Dean had to say about warm leads or your warm network. Start with the people that you already know and talk to them about the thing you're working on and speak up about your new venture. And so she said that, and I thought that was probably a really good point to be making. After that, he had a conversation with Stephen Bartlett. If you're not familiar with Stephen Bartlett, he's an entrepreneur. He is in the marketing space, but you probably, if you do know who he is, you probably know him from his podcast, Diary of a CEO, one of the most popular podcasts out there, where he interviews a wide range of different people. I actually watched one of his podcasts the other day with someone with a doctor who was talking about the food industry and many of the problems with the processed food that's making us sick. So that was an interesting podcast, Diary of a CEO. You might want to check it out. He was asked by Dean who he wants to be in his 30s. So he's 31 right now. And so Dean asked him, well, who do you want to become in your 30s? And he simply said himself. And he said he began to talk a little bit about how he met a person that he thought was exactly the kind of person he wanted to become. And when he got to examine this man more closely, he found out that man was miserable. So it made him really rethink everything and say, hey, do I really want to try to become just like that when that person is miserable? So it made him regroup. And so he has this interesting thing. I've heard him say this on his podcast before, but he has this interesting way of thinking about discipline as being the sum of you having a why or a reason for doing a thing, plus a reward for doing that thing, plus you might say minus the cost of doing that thing. So the way to think about this, if you want to increase the discipline that you have in a certain area, you want to increase the amount of reasons or the why of why you would want to do this thing. You want to increase the potential reward that would come from doing this thing, and you want to decrease as much as possible the cost of doing that thing. And if you can do all three of those things or some combination of those, you will increase your ability to be disciplined in that area. He talked a lot about experimentation and really pivoting where necessary, doing small experiments in life, and then when something goes well, you know to do more of that. And if it doesn't, do less of that. And in that same vein, one of the things he said is that failure is feedback. I know this from doing experiments with artificial intelligence for my PhD and even before that. Failure is feedback, and you get used to failing a lot. And often I would talk to people and they would ask me how my research was going, and for most people, I would just say, "Oh, it's going all right." But people that really wanted to dig and really wanted to ask me about how it was going, a lot of times I would talk to them about the failures, about how badly things were going. But knowing that those failures are the fuel to get you to the good result that you're looking for. So after the conversation with Stephen Bartlett, there really wasn't much more. Dean went back to talking more about this mastermind system that he is offering for just under $1,000. And then he began to invite people back for the final day of this virtual live event. And that's tomorrow, starts again tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon, and goes through roughly 3 o'clock or so. Tony Robbins will be back, and I assume it'll be similar to the first day, where Tony will be talking more extensively during a specific chunk of the event. And then Dean will talk at the beginning, and then probably have a conversation with one or two other people over the course of his time. But that was today's event. Like I said, there was much less, I don't remember any language there. And if this is something you'd like to take a look at and you want to go to it live, gamehaschangedevent.com. Even if you don't want to go to it live, you can for sure find this on YouTube. If you go to Dean Graziosi's YouTube channel, you can do what I did, put it at double speed, and you can watch a 3-hour event. You can skip past the first 40 minutes of the event where they open it up for people to get in and get excited. Well, you can skip all of that and get to the part where Dean starts. And from that part to the end, if you put it at double speed, you can probably get it done in an hour and a half or go through it in an hour and a half. So that's all for today. Until next time, thanks for watching.